Sounds
Okay.
right.
Okay, great, great. Okay, so it's just about 7 o'clock now, so I think we should start. Um, so the first thing I thought to say before all this stuff happened was that you should come a bit early. You should come around 6:45 because anything could happen. And sometimes the Zoom link needs some adjusting, so that's important. You will be more relaxed if you come a bit early, and you won't feel rushed, and you will get to know the other students, barring emergencies. Um, yeah, yeah. And if you can't come, could you send me an email saying you're not going to be here, etc. Um, I think you should try to bring a notebook, a small notebook, and that notebook could have jot down information that you remember or want to remember about the class, um, thoughts that you have, questions. Um, Look up something. Make sure to look up something. Um, Maybe a piece of writing or a poem or a quote or something. And I think that's a good idea. Um, okay, so the the specialty of this term is a study of triptychs, which I'm particularly interested in, and I hope you will be as well. Um, the triptychs range in age from very early to quite contemporary. Um, so later, I'm going to show you in advance the four triptychs that we're going to be concentrating on, and um, but also some more, which a few I found and others that I remembered. So I have a grouping of them. So I like to start the class the way I've started the class many other times, with everyone introducing themselves. And to me, that makes a lot of sense because then you get a chance to see the person and they'll say something about themselves, what their connection with either this class is or with art is, fine arts or art in general. And if you could say one piece, one piece of art, a book, a film, an exhibit, a painting or drawing that you saw that you really responded to, really got to you. So I'm going to start. I'm going to, um, so my name is Simon, and um, this class really came out of something I used to do when I taught painting and drawing, which is I would bring in a book and show the book to the students and talk about why that artist was interesting to me, why the artist's work reverberated, had a buzz to it. And everyone seemed to really like that. And I like doing that. So when I stopped teaching painting and drawing, I thought maybe this was a good way to keep that idea going. And um, I learn a lot by doing this too. So to organize this and to present it is very, very interesting. Um, so this class comes out of about a 15-minute break in a class of drawing and painting. So um, when what I do every day is really draw and paint. And recently I've been working on one very large painting through most of the pandemic, actually. Um, in terms of something I've seen, which which I was very struck by, unfortunately, it was not in the realm of drawing and painting or um, an exhibit or a work of art, unfortunately, but in the realm of three films. And the films that I would recommend are three. The Seed of the Sacred Fig is one. The second one is called A Real Pain. And the third one is called Small Things Like These. Small Things Like These. So these films may not be for everyone, but I was very struck by them. So um,
Repeat the name of the
second
second
one,
one.
A Real Pain.
A Real Pain.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and that's the film that the actor in it, um, Kieran Culkin, I think is his name, won the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor. And
Mm-hmm.
um, so I tend to like films that are um, low budget films with a real great deal of heart and a film that has to be made. They're really not commercial, but very artistic. So I recommend those three. Maybe some of you have seen them. Uh, Denise, you're nodding your head. So which one?
Um, I saw A Real Pain.
Okay.
I'm not sure. Small things like these sounds familiar, but I don't know that I saw that.
I highly recommend it.
Okay.
I rather not talk about it, but I highly recommend it. So I'm going to just call on you. And the thing I would say is not to spend a lot of time with this. I would say 2 minutes, 1 to 2 minutes tops, because I want to show you the images of the triptychs at the end, and just say a little bit more about the subjects in the class, how we'll proceed. So I'm going to call you in the order, in a certain order. It was basically the order that I wrote down for the way you came into the class or registered. So I'm going to start with Len.
Good. I'm always the first one to send you the money, aren't I, Simon?
Well, you're very efficient.
I Venmo right away. I'm like, I'm in.
You're incredibly um, resourceful.
Anyway, yes, I'm Len. As Simon said, I do live in Connecticut. I love viewing art. I love visiting museums. I like art of really all forms, not just visual, but really across the spectrum. And I'm an untrained artist myself, mostly pastel and some acrylic, mostly abstract. And something I saw recently, we have a tiny museum here in near me up in Waterbury called the Mattatuck. And the Mattatuck had an exhibit of the photography of Gordon Parks. Gordon Parks was the first African American photographer uh, to be hired by Life magazine. And apparently he has a large body of work. This group of photographs included folks like Muhammad Ali and Malcolm X and Adam Clayton Powell Jr., and a lot of photographs of some very deep, dark poverty, including in Brazil as well as right in New York City. Just very striking photos from a pioneering, groundbreaking photographer. And really, it's a testament. My girlfriend and I go to a lot of museums, and the small ones are always really interesting because you never know if it's going to be kind of, a bomb, or you might find something really special. And more times than not, we find something really special. And the Mattituck curation is, real good. They really figure it out and put together something nice in a relatively small room. Not like an expansive walkthrough, but a small, tight, well-curated exhibit at a smaller museum.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Ron.
Hi, I'm Ron Castell. This is I think probably the fourth session that I've attended and enjoyed them very, very much in many different kinds of ways. I'm a still practicing psychiatrist in Washington, D.C. Split time between D.C. and the home that my late wife and I built in New Mexico 30 years ago. And enjoy very much music and visual arts. Had the pleasure of visiting New York and visiting some very nice people up there, including Simon, and had the chance to take a sort of a binge museum walk on Saturday. Got to 4 museums and enjoyed them very much. Was particularly touched by the Robert Frank home movies of MoMA. I've seen much of his work before these were things that were discovered in his estate. And if anyone's around, it's very much worth spending an hour watching all of them. And they're very, very lovely, very existential, very gritty, very much of the 70s. And looking forward to triptychs. Why triptychs? Simon and my very first discussion was of a triptych, our first triptych meeting. So
That's great.
Enjoying the seminar.
Yeah, no, that's great. Kathy, is Kathy?
Yeah. Yes, I'm here, Simon.
Okay, great.
So, so I'm from Staten Island, I live on Staten Island for decades. I'm from Ohio originally, and I found out about this class on Facebook ad, Simon, that you posted, and I was intrigued right away. So I'm an artist for decades. I went to college for art. I do portraits. I teach watercolors. So my life is, surrounded by art. When I go to the Met, I always have to visit 2 paintings. Whatever show I see, I have to visit 2 paintings. One is by Arnold Blokleen, The Isle of the Dead. I just love that painting. It attracted me right away. It's full of mystery. It's very somber. And so I love that. I love to visit that painting. And then there's a weapon.
How do you spell the artist?
Blockklin.
Okay.
Yeah, it's in the European wing, right near the Rodins.
Yes.
And then there's a record that I love. I can't think of the title, but it is of a writer. He's kind of sitting over a desk of books. And there's a sad story that goes behind that writer, that a gorgeous portrait, but that writer committed suicide. His father and his brother committed suicide. So his eyes are very intensive, and you can see a lot of drama, a lot of pain in his eyes. And I always like to visit that painting too, besides the Pantana tours.
Who's the artist for that one?
Reppin.
Oh, okay.
And I'm looking forward to this class this semester.
Okay, that's great. Anna.
Hi, I'm Anna. I live in Brooklyn. I'm a retired principal of an elementary school, the Brooklyn New School, And I've always loved art. I actually have a bachelor's in fine arts in painting from a million years ago. And so I do dabble in painting too. When I think of, I just wanted to say, I haven't seen Small Things Like These, but I have read it. And I think it's one of the most beautiful
Oh.
books I've read by Claire Keegan. So I highly recommend the book itself. And I do want to see the film. But I was thinking, I went to, in the fall, to the exhibit at the Brooklyn Museum of Art on the Elizabeth Catlett, and it was a retrospective of her work. It was stunning. And the thing that really struck me was the whole family is artists. Her husband's an artist, and her children are all in the arts. One's a musician, one's a filmmaker, and the third is a visual artist, three sons. And the filmmaker made a film about his parents that was absolutely incredible, just incredible film about this family in Mexico. Yeah.
I don't know who you mean by the husband, but she was married to an artist named Charles White. I think that's a previous husband.
That might be the previous husband, because
Yeah.
this guy is someone she met in Mexico. Yeah. I can't
Yeah.
remember his name now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
one of the classes a few years ago was devoted to Charles White and an exhibit of his work at the Museum of Modern Art.
Mm,
He's a very good artist.
mhm.
Okay, so Rita.
Yes, well, I am an old neighbor, right next door to Simon for decades. Now I live all the way out in the Hamptons at the end of Long Island. I've always been interested in all the arts. I taught high school English. I also owned a real estate brokerage office for many years. And most recently, I had a wonderful experience in art. A friend of mine who now lives in Paris and has lived there for many years, in her retirement, she makes the vestments for the priests who are at Notre Dame. And so she was allowed to come in during the restoration of Notre Dame. And she was able to be there with the priests at a time when no one else was there. And she took some wonderful photographs of the stained glass, of the statuary, of the restoration of the floors and the stairs and the woodwork. And
Oh, wow.
we had quite a session where she shared all those views with me. And it was an exceptional experience. There's also a very good documentary on Notre Dame that you can look at. I don't know how you get it, but you can find it. And the other thing I wanted to share is a little factoid having to do with Santa Fe and the recent death of Gene Hackman. In reading several articles in the Times about him, it turns out that he was a painter. He did some painting, and he studied with somebody who you and I, Simon, know.
Yes, yeah. I was
Elias Rivera.
Yeah, I was surprised. I didn't realize he studied with him. I thought he was a friend of his.
Yeah, it said he took classes with him.
Yeah. He's quite an actor. Very good, a real New York type. Thank you. So Susan.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah. Oh, yes, you should go.
I'm Susan Stickney, and I live in Santa Fe, and the papers are full of the death of Gene Hackman and how mysterious it is. I'm sure hoping they come up with a good, clear account. He painted a mural in one of the restaurants. You can still sit in front of this mural. I forget the name of the restaurant at the moment. I'm retired. Last year, I was very involved in family property and the dissolution of my parents, and they were artists, and the house was filled with the photographs of my father, who was head of various photography departments and fine arts, Oscar Bailey. And it was just so interesting to collect all of these ceramics, photographs, paintings, weavings. You know, artists are always trading art. And so not only was there his work and my mom's work, but there were all these objects from other artists. And it was sort of wonderful to see how they had made a home surrounded by all of these things. And of course, now everybody in the family got to choose and things have been dispersed. But I found it very moving, just very moving how a person can, and that I think applies to all of us here on the screen, that you just, you collect these things that mean something to you and you weave them into an environment that I hope sustains us.
Yeah.
So that was it's very personal, but it was very revealing about how people use artworks and objects.
Yeah, very well.
By hand.
Very well said. Very well said. Chuck is not here. Oh, Jackie. Jackie.
Hi, thanks. I live in Tuckahoe, New York, which is a suburb of New York City. I'm mostly a word person. I write poetry, but I love using my eyes to look at art. In fact, I think I have a hunger to use my eyes to look at art. So that's why I loved Simon's class in the fall and why I'm back now. For the pleasure that it gives my eye. One artistic event that really moved me was a major exhibit held at the Metropolitan Museum in the fall and early winter about painting from Siena in the early 1300s.
Sienna.
Everybody saw it, I'm sure, because it was such a big deal. Apparently, there haven't been that many shows about Sienese painting from that period. And the argument of the exhibit is that the work was innovative, highly skilled, extremely successful, not just in Siena, but up the road in Northern Europe. But that because of two things, because a lot of the art was on building walls, and because a huge plague hit the area in the mid 1300s, very little is left of this achievement. And certainly the people were wiped out. So this was almost an excavation, this exhibit, to put together what's left of this art. And it included triptychs, and it included frescoes, and it included these very, very small pieces, as well as crafts is it's a pejorative word, but the things that were created out of fabric, the argument made sense to me that this was a very important part of painting history, especially that has been lost or underappreciated.
Listening to you, I realized that I should have said that exhibit. I should have said I should have mentioned that exhibit. So it actually, if I could be more specific, the quality that would make me recommend something would be if it has not to be missed. You're making a mistake if you miss this. Okay? So that's what I felt about the three films.
Yes.
But I agree with you about that exhibit, which I saw, and I would say not to be missed. So thank you for making me alter my thinking.
I don't know where it is now, but it's no longer at the Metropolitan Museum in New
I think
York.
it's in Europe. I think it's it's in London, I think.
Oh, well, we should all get on planes if we haven't seen it.
I think it's at the National Gallery in London, but I'm not 100% sure, but that's what I think. The next one I have is Denise.
Hi, I'm Denise Chevalier. I live in Parkville, Missouri, just outside of Kansas City.
Oh, I didn't realize that's where you lived.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's a
terrific.
nice
Terrific.
little woodland area up on a river, up above the
Oh,
Missouri River, so that's pleasant. I was a professional illustrator at Hallmark Cards for 35 years. Um, and really, I mean, that to even be able to stay there, I had to be able to do a lot of different styles and be interested in two-dimensional, three-dimensional things. So I also have done ceramics and welding and woodworking and a bunch of things like that. I've been retired from there for almost 13 years now and have kind of refound oil painting, mainly because, you know, if you're an illustrator, you can't wait around for oil paints to dry. You have to, you know, get 4 things done a week or more. So I've gone back to painting in oils, which is challenging, and also no computers involved. I did a lot of illustration work finally on the computer. So having to go back, do these things, you know, all in real time is interesting. The thing that made me really feel like painting again was I was in Chicago at a big, I don't know, like a big art fest, whatever it is they have at, you know, the warehouse, some big meeting center. But I saw a couple of Ewan Uglow paintings, and at that time I had never heard of him. And of course, it was there was a level of abstraction. The color was beautiful. Mark making was beautiful. It just gave me a whole, I don't know why. I just thought, oh, I really, not that I want to paint like him, but there was something about seeing that in person that really kind of woke me up. And that's about, well, so also in the last 12 years, because of the internet and Facebook, I was able to find a bunch of different current artists that I like very much, and I've traveled to take in-person classes from as many of them as I could. And during the pandemic, I pretty much spent 2 years taking online classes just to
So,
learn things.
do you live near Columbia, Missouri?
Well, it's maybe a couple hours away.
Oh,
Columbia is, you know, it's Kansas City is the complete other end of Missouri from St. Louis, and Columbia is about in the middle.
so you live by Kansas City then?
Yeah, just north of Kansas City, Missouri. Yeah.
Um, okay, so the next one is Carol.
Ah, hi, I'm Carol Gerstle. I live in Brooklyn near Simon, actually, Park Slope. And I found out about Simon's classes from our favorite international deli, where he left some flyers, and that was like 5 or 6 classes ago, I guess, Simon.
Mm.
And I'm a retired lawyer, labor lawyer, and I love all forms of art, I think, but I really have loved
Mm.
improving, learning how to look at art better. And that's why I take these classes. I enjoy them a lot. But the thing that I saw recently that I wanted to mention was actually a play. And it's a play called English,
Mm.
um, done in the Roundabout Theater, and it's a story of, well, it was very timely. It's a story, but beautifully done. It was a Pulitzer Prize winner in 2023, and it's a story of 4 Iranian students in an English as a second language class, and a lot about, you know, what makes your homeland, what makes your home, and what studying. In other words, a lot about trying to get to the United States too. But it was a beautiful, beautiful production.
Is it still on now?
Now, I think I was looking at it just before. I think it just went off. They just did their last performance of it.
Well, thanks for mentioning that. That's great.
Yeah.
So is Dean here? No? Anne Marie is here? No?
I'm here, Simon.
Oh, you
sorry
are.
about that. Yeah.
Where are you?
Sorry about that.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I'm in Minnesota, just shoveling somebody's.
Be careful. Be careful.
Yeah, I'm on the ground this time.
Okay.
Yeah. Well,
Dean dials in from the roof.
Sometimes.
Okay, you got
All
it,
right.
Dean. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I've always loved to sketch, even as a school kid, during class, sketching the teacher's face, trying to learn. So taking a lot of classes just in school, and in architecture school, I like the art classes I took. But I find that I just keep it at sketching, So anyway, Simon inspires me to take drawing into more depth, I guess. So I'm looking forward to his coaching to enter our Minnesota State Fair, which has a nicely juried competitive art exhibit. So I'm hoping to kind of combine my interest in amateur musicianship with art. There's a one of the orchestras in town, the St. Paul Civic Symphony, gives concerts in the old courthouse called Landmark Center here, which with a beautiful atrium. So I'm trying to do a composition of that, and I think one of the things that came up, one of the inspirations, Simon mentioned Fritz Lang's Metropolis. So I would say that would be my contribution. One of the things that I had never watched the whole movie. I've just seen sort of the image of the robot from the pictures, but watching the movie, the theme of the movie is the mediator between the head and the hand is the heart. So the theme of the movie is the workers that are forced to work deep underground, and the elites are up above playing in their playgrounds, the rich children of the rich, developers. And so there's this Maria character that is trying to mediate and help everybody live happily together. So, and then the evil mastermind makes a clone kind of Maria to sow chaos, in the underground. So anyway, it's interesting visually looking at how collage is used in the movie, the black and white images of these futurist cities. And so I'm trying to play around with ideas, of perspective and collage. And
that's great. That's great.
It's kind of interesting that way. Yeah.
I'm really hoping I get to show you the triptychs, because one of them is called Metropolis.
Really? Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So
thanks.
Be careful now. Okay.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay. Mary, is Mary here? No. Alan.
Yeah, I'm Mary, and
oh, Mary, you are here.
I know. Is it this Mary? Is that who you meant? Yeah.
Yeah.
I know of Simon's classes probably because I taught your grandson many years ago. So I'm a retired teacher, and I just love art and take in as much as I can. And I find that your classes have been incredibly enlightening. Everybody has, I've just learned a tremendous amount of things to think about. And something I've done recently is I went the other night to St. Anne's and saw a play called Safe House by Edna Walsh that was really unique. And a week or two before that, I saw a a series of Beckett shorts at the Irish Rep, and it was really great. F. Murray Abraham, I think that's his name. F. Murray Abraham was did Crap's last tape, and it was fabulous. It was really great to see that.
Mm.
And I also got over to the Met this week and saw the Caspar David Frederick, which I think you've put on the syllabus for the
Yeah.
course, and
Yeah.
it was great. I have to go again a couple of times. I'll have to be back there, but just beautiful, really great to see.
Terrific. Terrific. Okay, who is next? Oh, Alan.
Yes, hi. I'm Alan, and I'm a semi-retired architect. I live in New York, and these days I spend some time up in the Berkshires, Massachusetts, and also in Florida, where my son lives. He's a soloist at Miami City Ballet. I think probably this will be his last year, by the way. And I guess I started taking classes with Simon probably about 40 years ago. And so I was in those classes where he used to, give us these 15-minute lectures about various of artists. So I've been doing, so we did, it was a sketch class for, a drawing class. And these days, I've been doing a lot of painting, mostly acrylics, because it's just simpler for me. And also, I'm in Florida now, and there's a class that they give. They have a studio, an open studio, where they have models come in each week, whether male or female, actually, both. And so I've been doing that pretty much every week. So I have not been to anything exciting lately in terms of exhibits, but I guess maybe a little over a year ago, I had gone to see while I was in New York, I had gone to see the Harlem Renaissance exhibit.
Mm.
And I was actually very impressed by a lot of the work that was done by various artists. One in particular was an artist named Archibald Motley Jr. And I guess he lived, I guess, from the late 19th century to probably, I don't know, I think 1980 something. And he was an African American. Actually, he was actually a mixed race person. But he had done a lot of paintings that were very colorful of various scenes, some in Chicago, which is where he was from, and some in Paris. He must have spent some time there. But I was impressed by the work that he did. He would capture, these various things that were going on in life. He did a painting of a Parisian dance hall, and another one, I think, was kind of a nightlife thing. But there were also other artists there who were pretty impressive. Anyway,
Yeah.
I was impressed by the exhibit.
Yeah, I saw that, and I would say great exhibit, really terrific. Is Lucia here? No. Francis Stern.
Yeah, I had to unmute myself. Hello. This is at least the fifth time I've taken Simon's course, originally in his living room in Brooklyn. I live in New York. So I was just thinking today, I live in Manhattan, and I would go there straight from work, and some little burger joint. Every week I'd have a salad and a baked potato
Oh,
for class,
nice. That's
and
nice.
then go over. But I have a BA in art history and an MA in pure mathematics. I still teach some math. mostly
Francis, I didn't realize you had a BA in art history.
yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't realize that at all.
Oh, that's funny that I
Yeah.
didn't.
Yeah.
So I still do some teaching, mostly to middle school kids who are interested in math, and we look at topics that you don't see in school at all, and in a way to develop the children's thinking, to bring out their own ability to think for themselves. Right now, I'm working with a class of 4th and 5th graders, and I have them working on the subject called combinatorics, and they're doing amazing work, even though they're very young, and getting them to just play with it and see. So I enjoy that, but that's just, I do that part-time now. Of exhibits I've seen, besides the Met exhibits mentioned, I did recently see the Caspar David Friedrich exhibit, and the drawings are what's astounding in it. Rocks and trees. There's a drawing of some trees, but one of the trees exists in your eye because it's not drawn. It's the trees around it that create the shape of the tree. But so it's the drawings there that are especially astounding. So we'll go again. I keep a membership at the Met. When I was teaching 5 days a week, I taught near there, so I could run over for even short periods. So if some of you non-New Yorkers come in to see stuff, I can bring one guest anytime. So I want to mention that because it's great.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
I've mentioned to Francis that the artist that I know of who combined fine arts and mathematics is Piero della Francesca. And Piero della Francesca was a great artist. And towards the end of his life, he became so interested in mathematics that he left being an artist to study mathematics. And there are very interesting drawings that he did, which are of shapes and perspective ideas. It's a very interesting thing to see. And yeah, it's very interesting.
I should mention I study drawing and watercolor painting at the Y with Zach Seeger now. And Benoit Mandelbrot, who is the person who basically is thought of as inventing fractal geometry, was very aware of artists who he felt understood fractal geometry without the vocabulary or the mathematics that he saw in their work.
So, Kristen.
Hi, I'm Kristen. I taught with Simon's wife Renee many years ago and taught with Frank McGarry many years ago in Brooklyn. I live in Hoboken now and I still teach. I teach preschool. I teach a lot of art. That's my favorite thing to teach. I don't get to do it quite as often right now as I would like, but and I've taken a number of these classes as well, which are terrific. Two things. One, quickly, just the scope of the exhibit was Edges of Eyck at the Whitney. It was just a very interesting exhibit. And I didn't love all the art in it, but there were some things that were amazing. And it was just a very interesting, multi-layered exhibit. And the other thing that just popped into my head was we were in Chicago a few weeks ago and went to the Chicago Cultural Center, which is it was the first library in Chicago. And it is a spectacular space that is beautiful mosaics and this beautiful domed Tiffany glass ceiling. And I think that the mosaics were created by the Tiffany Studios, and it just reminded me of how much I love space in particular. I really am drawn to beautiful spaces and designs in spaces.
Tell me the name of that exhibit at the Whitney again.
I think it closed a few weeks ago, but Edges of Eyck, and it was about Alvin Ailey. It was a
That's what I thought. That's what I
yeah,
thought you said.
and
That's what I
it was
think you said.
multimedia. It was really
Yeah, yeah.
quite an exhibit.
Okay, so then I have Carla.
Yeah. I started taking Simon's class a couple of years ago. And one of the classes I took, I audited. So I felt like it was hard to really stay connected, but was able to stay interested in the artwork. And I think I came to art rather late in life. I started really focusing when I became a poet, and that was now about 15 years ago. And before that, I had a big family to raise. Um, and in my writing, I realized that every time I looked at paintings, I felt like my response to the painting was actually a poem.
Hmm.
And so I started getting very excited about paintings because I just felt like there was a certain kind of interaction between what I was seeing and what it was doing to me. And then I would write about it. And so I've written about a lot of paintings, and some of them are published. And so anyway, that's one of the main reasons that I really want to study in this class. I love the way Simon has a way of teaching where he's very curious about what each of us have to say, and that is delightful and encouraging, and my whole scope has been enhanced by the relationship. Um, I just want to recommend a memoir that I listened to in audio. The reason I say listen is a great way to go is because the memoir is read by the author. The title is How to Say Babylon, and it is by a young woman named Safia, spelled Safia Sinclair, and she writes about her experience growing up in a Rasta family in Jamaica. And it's very complicated, and it's done in a very slow and deep and lyric way. And it's beautiful, and I haven't been moved like that for a long time. So I think it's a good one. Yeah.
Terrific. Thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome.
Thanks on many counts. Okay. John, yourself.
Well, thanks, Simon. I'm John Gilstrap. I live in Orange County, New York. I have an IT job for a science publisher. And I guess I've been interested in art since childhood. I have an uncle who was an art professor, not so far from where Denise is now. He spent most of his career in Emporia. And so I grew up in a house full of art, and so did my wife. And now we're running out of wall space. So, I've been thinking about art for a long time, and this is my first class with Simon, but I've been thinking about his works for a while too, because we have a friend in common who had a house with many of Simon's pieces in it. And so I would see them, and they would get my gears turning. So I've been real pleased to get to meet Simon of late, and get to really know his art in a better way. Um, I'm going to pitch a different sort of art to everybody. It's a book, one of my favorites. It's kind of one of the building blocks of my current love of art. Another of the building blocks. It's called The Portrait of Dr. Guichet. It's a book about that painting by Van Gogh. I'm going to go with that pronunciation since I can't do the Dutch G. It's written by a person named Cynthia Saltzman, and it's just a fascinating look at the painting, the artist, the creating the market for a demand for his art, which didn't happen right away. It wasn't just the tremendous and distinctive nature of his art that did that. There's much more that went into that, and the way art is used as a political tool, the way it's sold, all of that is covered in this study of this one piece of art and how it and its in its biography, if you will.
This is a new book. A new book.
No, not so new. From the 90s. But very, very well researched. She's had, for some of her other books, she had grants from very serious institutions, and she wrote 2 or 3 more. So she was backed by some
very interesting. Very interesting.
And by the way, a neighbor of yours. She lives in Brooklyn.
Really?
Yeah. So
what's her name?
Cynthia Saltzman, Saltzman. A very, I think she has a PhD relating to art in some way. Very serious person, writing books that anybody can really read and enjoy, and it just was fascinating to me. So that's my recommendation.
That's great. That's great. Thank you. Frank.
Hi, Simon.
Yeah, hi.
I'm Frank McGarry, and I was a music teacher in an elementary school in Brooklyn for 34 years, which overlapped with our friend Kristen as well, as she mentioned. And that's also, of course, where Simon's wife Renee works or worked. And that's how I met Simon and Renee and Simona and Jeremy. And music is my primary pursuit in art, but I do love so many different arts, written work, visual arts. And 2 really great exhibits that I had seen recently have been mentioned, the Edges of Ailey exhibit, and also I think Jackie mentioned the art from Siena, which one thing that really struck me, I know Jackie mentioned some things already about it, were the bone or ivory sculptures that were so detailed, and so they're miniature, many of them, but they were really remarkably done, carvings in ivory. And also to add something different, I had a chance to see the exhibit called Luna Luna at the Shed, which is kind of a fascinating exhibit of amusement park rides from an amusement park exhibit in Germany in the late 1980s. And all of the amusement park rides were designed by people like Salvador Dali, Keith Haring, Basquiat. And it was kind of a fascinating thing to see these rides. Of course, no one was actually riding them, but it was mysterious and sort of ghostly to see amusement park rides running and the sound of the music.
Is that still on?
With these designs, I think it may have just closed.
Oh.
But all of these rides going and running but nobody on them. It was kind of a striking way to see them. But those are all just really different, fascinating things I've seen recently.
Yeah, that's great.
And also, I've really enjoyed these classes, Simon. You've really introduced me to a lot of interesting artists that I don't feel like I may have taken note of or come across otherwise. So thank you.
Thanks. Try my best. Um, so, Alessia.
Hi, I'm Alessia. I'm a Parsons student who's studying design. Hi. I'm currently at work, so you might see me step away for a few moments occasionally. Um, but I met Simon through my partner who studies classical piano with his daughter Simona, but this is the first lesson that I've had the privilege of coming to, so I'm very grateful for this opportunity. Of course, as a designer, I do think it's my responsibility to have a holistic understanding of the human experience and what it means to be a person. So, having an arts appreciation class is definitely the best way to do that, not only in obviously hearing an artist like Simon talk about and explain these works and what they mean, but also I'm very grateful to have this opportunity to meet all of you and get to connect with so many people who have all of these experiences and all of this knowledge for me to feed off of.
That's great. That's great. Um, I think maybe Matthew, you might be the last one, unless I've left someone out. So Matthew.
Hi, everybody. I see some familiar faces from the fall, which is really great. Um, I've known Simon since he was about half the age I am now, um, and I was very small. My parents were good friends of Simon and Renee in Rome in the 1970s. When Simon was at the American Academy, and stayed in contact throughout the decades. The triptych that Simon is justly well known for is a painting I've been familiar with for a very long time, and I also have a deep personal relationship with the Flower Market, which is another painting of his, not a triptych, but a large painting that I have admired for a very, very long time and recently had the opportunity to obtain a print of. My background is in graphic design. I've taken a number of art history classes in my life at Pratt, at NYU. Lived in Italy for a long time, so got to see a lot of art there. But I wanted to take these classes because I wanted to broaden my vocabulary, my ability to describe art or to discuss art, and try to draw some connections in different genres or different kinds of visual art, and to better appreciate also things outside of fine art. That could be related back in some way to artistic traditions. And as somebody just mentioned, the exposure to new artists that I wasn't previously familiar with is a very valuable part of this as well.
That's great. That's great. Thanks. Thanks. I'm gonna see if I can switch the screen to show you some pictures now. John, I'm going to go to more and then switch screens. I can't hear you.
Yeah, sorry. You should have a share button, I believe, probably green.
Oh, yes, 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 I do.
So, yeah, start there.
Let me hit the green button.
Yeah.
Okay, I got it. I got it.
Yeah, you got it.
So, as I said before, at the very beginning of the class, I thought that I would end this class with like a preview of a few of the things you're going to be seeing. So, the first image is of, let's see if I can make this a little bigger. Yeah. So the first image is of a painting this is a triptych, but you could almost say it's a polyptych because it's many panels, but divided into three. One, two, three. So this is by Jan van Eyck. So Janvaneyck. And this painting, Jan van Eyck is the oldest artist in the group that we're talking about. His dates are amazing. 1390 to 1441. 1390. This painting is called The Adoration of the Lamb, and it's in Ghent in Belgium. The period of time that he worked on this was 1425 to 1432. So next week I'll be speaking about this painting, and you'll see a lot of details, and then we can discuss, ask questions, etc. So that's the first one. This is the second one, which is The Garden of Earthly Delights. And this painting is by Hieronymus Bosch. So Bosch is spelled Bosch, Hieronymus, Hieronymus, Hieronymus Bosch. This painting was done in between 1490 and 1510. And his dates are 1450 to 1516. So both the paintings you saw already are quite large. I don't have the dimensions in front of me for this. I'll have it by next week, but I would bet that this is 15 feet wide. And the other one, the previous one by Van Eyck, I would say 16, 17 feet wide. So this painting is in the Prado Museum in Madrid. Okay, third triptych is this one. Let me see if I can make this a little bigger. Okay, so this painting is by the artist Matthias Grunewald. So Matthias is Matthias, Grunewald, Grunewald. So Grunewald's dates are 1470 to 1528. And this painting was done between 1512 and 1516. This painting is located in Colmar, France. Colmar, France. So this is an area of where France and Germany meet. And it's an area that was for some years German and for some years French. Grunewald is a German artist, and the three paintings that you've seen so far are unbelievable. And I've seen each one of these 2 to 3 times. And they're really amazing paintings. And I would say this one is about 17, 16 feet wide. The figure of Christ in this painting is oval life size. I would say this figure is about maybe 8 feet high. So if you extrapolate from 8 feet of this figure and his arms and so on, it's quite a image.
What's the name of this painting?
Oh yeah, this painting is called the Isenheim Altarpiece. Uh, I think it was called that because it was painted for an order um, in Colmar called Isenheim, Isenheim. Now, in the announcement for the class, I mentioned that to me, these triptychs, not all of them, but to me, these triptychs are have an equivalency in the novel form in literature. So they're very complex and deep and big in feeling, not just big in space, but big in feeling. Um, I'd like to say more about each one of these for the next in the next few classes, but this is a preview. Um, so the next one is by an artist I know very well. um, uh, so in this case, the painting was done between 1971 and 1974, and the artist born 1943. Um, and this painting is 14 feet wide. Um, and you'll hear more about this very soon. Okay. One other thing that may or may not be interesting, but all the paintings you've seen so far are on wood panels. And wood panels basically were replaced by canvas, but early paintings were mainly done on wood panels. And wood panels, uh, maybe for painters who feel connected with draftsmanship, fine draftsmanship, drawing is a preferred medium. Nowadays, very few artists use wood panels. Um, Andrew Wyeth would be an example, George Tooker, and Antonio Lopez Garcia. Um, a few others, not many, but a few others, and myself. Um, okay, so the next one is this one, which is by Roger van de Weyden. So Roger van de Weyden is a contemporary of um, Jan van Eyck. So Roger van de Weyden, his dates are 1400 to 1464. These amazing, amazing dates. And this painting, which is called the Bone Altarpiece, Beaune, Beaune, is located in Beaune, France, and um, was done between 1443 and 1451. So this painting is very long and wide, and depicts the end of the world. Um, and it's very beautifully composed and is basically, even though it has many panels, is basically a triptych. Um, okay, so I think the pronunciation is Van de Weyden. It's like the W is pronounced as a V. He's an amazingly good artist, and I saw this painting in person maybe about eight or 10 years ago, and I saw this painting and the Grunewald both in person. They're both located in France. Um, okay, so that's this one. Now the next one, we're only going to deal with the first four in as we proceed, but I thought it would be interesting to show you more. So the next one I thought to show you is this one. Let me make this a little smaller. So this is a triptych because Van Gogh thought, he imagined these three together. And I thought that would be interesting to show because it's very different than the others. But he imagined these three together. And you can see really why too. But these three were united in an exhibit that I saw last fall at the National Gallery in London. I think that was the first time that they were united as a triptych, and they look great. So they stayed with me, and it seemed worth showing. Okay, so so Van Gogh, his dates are 1853 to 1890. So Vincent van Gogh lives to be 37 years old. This is amazing. He does these three paintings in 1888 and 1889. Okay. Then number 7 is this painting of Max Beckmann. So Max Beckmann, his dates are 1884 to 1950. Born in Germany, flees Germany, ends up living in exile in Amsterdam, and then travels from Amsterdam to St. Louis, and from St. Louis to New York City, teaches at the Brooklyn Museum Art School in New York, passes away, has a heart attack in the street in Manhattan in 1950. And I think the date on this painting is 1944, 1945. He does many triptychs, I think maybe 20 or more. And there was an amazing exhibit, I don't know how many years ago, 25, 30 years ago, at, I think it was the Guggenheim Museum. They had a branch on Prince Street for a short period of time. And they put on an exhibit of maybe 15 of these triptychs that he produced. I think this one is called Blind Man's Bluff. And quite a large painting, I would say maybe 12 feet wide. And in this painting, you could see that the triptychs are separated. In other paintings, they're together. In my painting, they were separated. In the other paintings that were before mine that I showed you, they were connected and together. Okay, so the next one is, so this is the painting, if Dean is still here, I don't know if you are, but this is the painting called Metropolis. And this is by Otto Dix. So Otto Dix, 1891 to 1969. I mentioned the dates not because I'm that concerned about the dates, but the information is interesting in terms of when they lived, how old they were, how young they were, stuff like that. And Otto Dix passes away in 1969. So that always struck me as surprising. I would have thought 1942, 1946. but 1969. Um, and this painting was done in 1927 and 1928, and also a very large painting. And here you could see they're butted together. Okay. So now the next group, I couldn't put them together uh, as three of them. So we're going to do two. Now, these I was not aware of. And when I was looking at various things, I saw this and I thought it would be interesting to show. So um, this is by a Pre-Raphaelite artist whose name is Augustus Egg, E-G-G, Egg. Uh, uh, Augustus, first name, Egg, 1816 to 1858. So the whole trio, I'll show you the third one in a second. The whole trio is called Past and Present. And the trio deals with the dissolution of a marriage. And the first one is the one on the left, which is called Misfortune. The second one is called Prayer. And the third one is called Despair.
Ugh.
So I'm not sure how I feel about these. In other words, do they match up with the others? But they're absolutely fascinating. And they're very narrative, but extremely creative. And so it supposedly, I believe, is one day or one night. And you could see the moon appears in the paintings. Okay, so this is Augustus Egg, and English Pre-Raphaelite. The next one is very interesting. Let me see if I can make this a little bigger. So this is a work called, the artist's name here is Honoré Scherer, Honoresharer. So Honoré Scherer, 1920 to 2009. And it's called Tribute to the American Working People. Tribute to the American Working People. 1946 to 1951. This is not large. This is surprisingly small. Honoré Scherer, a very interesting woman, very highly individualistic. Other work of hers is very interesting. She was very serious about her work, very serious about her art, and her own background had a good deal of political sympathy, progressive and further out sympathy. But the piece in the middle is very striking, and the way the people sit in niches. It's not a very large painting, but very interesting, and the triptych motif is also very, very striking. I've seen this painting maybe two times. Okay.
Where is it, Simon?
This painting is at the Smithsonian American Art Museum, and this painting was donated to that museum by a collector whose name is Sarah Roby. And Sarah Roby collected a certain type of American figurative art. And she owned this painting, and she owned a large drawing of mine of an African American woman sleeping. It's the cover of one of my books. And she owned a second piece of a scene at night looking out the back windows, very dark and almost like poltergeist scene with windows lit up. Um, so there have been exhibits of that collection, which I've seen, and these paintings were in the exhibit. Um, she passed away in 2009, but the interesting thing about her, I mean, for myself, it's not the most interesting thing about her at all. But for myself, an interesting thing was that I would, when I had an exhibit, I would send her, um, a catalog or a brochure or something like that. And I found it amazing that she always wrote back, and she was very interactive, very involved, and uh, interested. Um, and I guess you could see why. Um, and there was recently, in the last few years, a retrospective of her work. So it traveled, and unfortunately, I wasn't able to see it, but she's quite interesting. And you could almost connect her with magic realism.
Mm.
The last of the triptychs, but again, I'm only going to concentrate on four.
Right.
But the last of this introduction is this one. So this painting is by Francis Bacon, and his dates are 1909 to 2009. And this painting was done in 1969.
And what's it called?
And this is three studies of Lucian Freud. Um, so Bacon actually did many triptychs. And this one was in the news in the last few years because it was sold at an auction for a huge amount of money. um, so the triptych form takes many shapes. You can see that, obviously, and even more than I have delineated. Um, so I guess maybe I have time for, say, two or three questions, but it's not necessary. But if any of you have a question or a thought, um, uh, let me know.
I have a question and a comment.
Yeah.
My comment is that some of these look like precursors to movies. You said the novel, I'd say movies. My question is, in some of these examples, I wonder, why are these in three different panels? What did the artist think he or she was gaining from that? In some cases, it's obvious what was gained, but not in every case.
I think your question is fantastic, but I'm not going to answer it until next week. But your question is absolutely fantastic. In other words, what you're saying is, why not put all these in one painting? What's the advantage, or
Right,
what's
exactly,
happening
exactly.
here. I think
Yes.
it's great. In the introduction to the whole triptych form, I'll start with that. Next time.
Great,
Yeah, next
great. Thank you.
any other questions?
I've got one, and maybe it's asking the same question from another approach. But what makes a triptych, Simon?
It's the three. Three.
Well, I know
It's
it's a
tripartite.
yeah, but I think isn't there a little bit more to it than that, right? I mean, for example, your early examples are religious pieces. We've got an example where the pieces were never hung together, except that they were hung together at the National Museum in London. So there was just the intent of the artist was that they should be hung together, right? I mean,
Yeah.
are they one composition divided into three framed units, or we can see that that's not it because there are several of these that are not a single composition, but they relate to one another. So the fact that there are three pieces isn't, I think, sufficient definition. What else?
I think that your question is great. I'm not even sure I know the answer to your question. I know the answer to the other question, but the yours I don't know. But I would, if I was guessing, I would say it's in the work and it's in the intention and it's possibly even in the design.
Mm-hmm.
Design of the presentation, which
Right.
would be Van Gogh, which would be
Right.
Van Gogh. It maybe it'll be clearer next week, but maybe it won't be. Okay, that's those two are great. Last question. Anyone, or thought?
In your triptych, Simon, there's a lot of other works of art referenced in the images pinned to the wall.
Yeah.
If you can zoom out yeah, we can see all of it. Are any of those images from historical triptychs? It's a trivia question, really.
I don't think so. Let me just scan this. Okay, if you look at the right panel, the image that is to your left of myself is a small painting, very, very small painting by Van Eyck, which is in the Metropolitan Museum of Art. In the Metropolitan Museum, that painting is shown as a diptych. And well, it's a great painting, a totally great painting, very, very small, like 14 inches high, 15 inches high. This is bigger than it is in the painting. There is a thought that that painting was part of a triptych, and the middle panel is missing. I don't know if that's true or what, but that's the only one that I see. In the middle panel, about halfway up the post, there's, I don't know if this works. Do you
Yep.
see an arrow?
Yep.
Okay, right here, right there, there's a painting by Surat, which is called Three Models. So you could make an argument that that's the triptych form, but in one painting. So three variations of an idea in one painting.
Right below that is the black and white image of the
Yeah.
nude. It looks like Van Eyck.
You're absolutely right. I goofed. This is from the Van Eyck painting, which is
Yeah. It's on the
here.
right.
There.
Eve.
I didn't know if that was the same one or if he did a lot of similar.
There.
Right. No,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. So that's this part right here, right there. Yes, you're absolutely right. Um, um, it's a very specific type of painting, and I hope by next week I can formulate some thoughts as to what makes it a triptych. Why is it a triptych? And the thoughts that I hope to present are not the thoughts that I had when I did this painting, but they are thoughts that I've received many years after. Um, but that's another story.
okay.
So next week, if you could come at 6:45, this was great that you came then. And I would just say two or three more sentences here is that for me, the goal is to make the work live. I may not know certain things, and I may be probing to figure certain things out. But if I can make this work live for you and be meaningful and palpable, that's an accomplishment. And that's what I'm trying to do. And you'll be the judge. So we'll see you next week. Okay.
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 Good night.
Looking
Yeah.
forward to that.
Great. Okay.
Bye.
You,
Take care,
Simon.
everybody.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Thank you.
Hi, Simon.
Bye. Bye-bye.